Okay, here we go. Stand by. 3, 2, 1, action.
Assume nothing.
Rash, bald-faced blasphemy.
Question everything.
I find it extremely hard to imagine.
Open your eyes.
It is quite all right to be an atheist.
The fastest growing group of people in the country has been measured as being those who have no belief or who are atheists.
You don't have to be apologetic or quiet about it.
Challenge the opposition.
You see religion on 100 fronts losing the argument.
And start thinking. This is the Thinking Atheist Worldwide.
So I cashed in some American Express miles and do a lot of business, and I needed a webcam. You know, talking with R and Raw about the Magic Sandwich Show, and we're going to do maybe a live show from DC the day after the Reason rally. And so anyway, I decided I was going to take the plunge, and I pick one up. And it's a nice one. I got a higher end one apparently, and it's this little orb with a camera in it from Logitech. And I have it on my desk, and it's got this little stem on it, this little extension. I'm setting it up, I'm plugging everything in, and kind of dinking with the software, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I move just a little bit in my chair from right to left or whatever. And the orb goes and follows my head. This is not natural. Scared the crap out of me. So, of course, I realized this has some sort of a follow technology, right? It sees your face, and as you move, it moves. No! Disabled that immediately. I just went into the options and said, no. I've seen too many movies to have some freaking camera follow my face around. But even now, it's just sitting there looking at me. I mean, it's right next to the monitor, and it's intelligent. It just looks like it's got my number. It knows what I'm saying at any moment. It's going to do something. Open the pod bay doors, Hal. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's like. Just looking at me. People often ask me why I don't do a video feed for the weekly podcast. The absolute truth of it is that I don't want one. I mean, I'm not interested. And it's not that I'm really shy, but coming from radio, I don't think the show needs a video feed. You know, what do you gain from looking and seeing me sitting here in front of a microphone as we talk about whatever we talk about? There's an intimacy about radio that transcends that, where you can be doing anything, you know, working on your car, driving to the office, doing whatever, and you don't have to have visual cues. You can just relax and enjoy. And I've always liked radio because of the theater of the mind aspect of it. If you paint a picture with words, people can use their own imaginations, and they can go ahead and draw their own pictures. And I think if you have a video feed going and you're just looking at me with a microphone here, I think it sort of deflates the experience. And I'm not saying we might not do video in some capacity down the way. We might not have some kind of we might get together and have some kind of a chat, some Skype chat somewhere, somehow, where we can all see each other and connect in that way. I do welcome that. But as far as the weekly shows, I really like just kind of just being here. I'm sitting here with my coffee and, just chilling out, You're on the other end. You're just listening, doing what you do, hopefully enjoying the content. I don't feel like I need a video element. I don't know. I'd welcome your input, but for the time being, we're radio. This is radio. We're talking about facepalms. I've had so many requests for this particular topic. We're probably going to have to do it again because so many people have so many facepalm moments. And, I've been having more and more lately. I think a lot of it has to do with just the grind. The Thinking Atheist is going to be 3 years old in May, which is not all that old, really. It's still pretty fresh out there. But managing the site myself and doing the shows, producing the videos, largely by myself, after a while, I feel a little bit overwhelmed. And then I feel a measure of frustration that after 3 years, so much of what I see and hear is repetitive and redundant. And no one seems to get it. Now, I'm talking about when you see and hear the religious arguments, when you're on Facebook and you see a certain kind of post, when you are talking to religious people and you hear them say something, some tired, hackneyed phrase that you've heard 1,000 times before and thought had been soundly debunked. And yet it remains out there. The hot button for me lately, the one that's just driving me crazy, and I'm not sure why lately it's been so intense for me. But there's a young lady who's on my personal Facebook page that I know from my radio days. Precious woman. She's precious. Beautiful, rich, wonderful alto voice. And she still does radio. And she is fighting cancer in her life. And as many people do who are going through a battle with some sort of a health disorder, she chronicles her journey toward recovery on Facebook. And I welcome that. I mean, I think that's therapeutic for a lot of people. You can communicate how are you doing? How's therapy going? How are the medicines working? Whatever. And she's going through, just the horrors of chemotherapy. And anybody who knows anything about chemo knows you're essentially poisoning your body, right, to kill the cancer. It's terrible stuff. And so she will log in and she will give you an update. Today we had this therapy. I feel better after my chemo. Some of my hair is starting to grow back. They just put in a drain to drain the fluids. I mean, some of it's almost oversharing. It's just, you think, okay, I didn't need all that information. Just how you doing, And time after time, it's thank you for your prayers. Appreciate all your prayers. Please pray. I've been praying. God is good. Jesus is Lord. And not once. I mean, I can't think of a single instance right now. Not one. Where she thanked her doctor by name, or her nurse, or the support staff, or the hospital staff, or even family members and friends personally. I mentioned that at the Oklahoma Free Thought Convention last year, how people can go through and pay thousands of dollars in insurance premiums and go through these incredibly invasive, man-made medical procedures, come out the other end thanks to a physician's care and a nurse's care and the care of support staff all around them, and thanks to the medicines provided by human scientists. And they grab the little cross on their neck and say, thank you, Jesus. More and more every day, I find myself just getting irritated. Now, I should be in control of how I feel about it, right? I don't subscribe to, they made me this. I hear it all the time in the atheist community. They'll say, the reason I'm filled with rage is because they made me this way. Well, I can understand to a degree a conditioned response. Yes, that does have merit. But also, we are in charge of our own mindsets, how affected we are, what we do about it. I mean, I really think we are in charge of, if you let somebody else push your buttons all the time, you've given them control over you, right? But I find myself day after day seeing these types of posts where someone essentially ignores the litany of human solutions all around them to thank God. And I want to say, thank a doctor. Please, please. A couple of times I actually said something, and You can imagine the response I got, right? I was the bad guy. Why would you say such a thing? I mean, I don't know why thanking a physician would be such a controversial suggestion. The prayers give her hope. Why would you do that? Say such a terrible thing? Are you mocking her at her lowest hour? No, I wasn't mocking anybody. I just said, don't forget. You people play victim as well as the religious too. Have you noticed? Makes me facepalm. They are charged. In fact, the Great Commission says they should go ye into all the world and preach the gospel into all the nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. They are charged to go out and change minds, change hearts. Missions work is another thing that's a hot button for me and makes me facepalm. Now, I think I don't know that I disagree. I want to say I disagree with Christopher Hitchens' assertion that religion poisons everything. Many people talk about missionaries and missions work like Christians never do any good, right? They never go out and do anything good. It's all about hate. And that's totally wrong-headed. Geez, I spent decades in the faith. I know that there are people who will risk life and limb to go out to benefit other people in third world countries all around the world, all right? But they operate from the mindset that they are not just doing a good deed for another human being, but they are charged by their deity to do so, right? And there is, unfortunately, usually an ulterior motive. They genuinely want to feed mouths. They genuinely want to give medicine. They genuinely want to alleviate pain. They genuinely want to rescue the downtrodden. That's accurate. That's true. They really do. They want to see the captured set free in oppressed cultures all around the world. I'll go in and, I mean, it's amazing. But they operate so often from the mindset that you go in and meet the physical need so that they are then ready to receive the spiritual meal. They're not going to listen to you if their bodies are hungry and you go in and preach the gospel. What we do now is we must go in and we must feed their mouths, and let's build them shelters, and let's create let's give them good drinking water. You know, let's bring stability into their area. Let's solve their physical problems. I'm all over that, and I admire and respect it. Okay? But the thinking is, once they have had their physical needs taken care of, now we can focus on the spiritual. Now we can say, are you hungry in your heart? Is there a famine in your spirit? Are you sick in your soul? We're going to probably, I think, in April do a charity event. I think the charity water charity is one I'm going to probably spearhead in April, maybe one other. And that way our page users will have an opportunity to choose which one they would like to support. And we're going to do something. We're going to do it because we want to do it. I had a kid who was, I want to say his name right, the Catholic school atheist. Something like that. He was a student in a Catholic school. He was an atheist. Now, the Catholic school was doing some sort of a charitable function. They were doing something. And this kid wanted to be charitable, but he didn't want to do it for religious reasons or through a religious organizations. And so he essentially put up his own Facebook page and said, look, non-believers, would you rally with me and let's go do some good? He set a personal goal of $600 through responsible charity. I think it's $10,000 is what it takes to build an orphanage. So I go to the website and I do some looking around, and from what I can gather and from the research that I had done, they seem like a reputable, responsible, secular charity. So I say, hey, kid, I'll give you a hand. Donated some money and posted it on the Facebook page, right? People came out of the woodwork. You should have seen it. Good job, Daniel. Well done, Daniel. You're setting a great example. I wish there were more people like you. Linking up making contributions, giving him verbal encouragement. Before it was over, I think it was a matter of 4 or 5 days, he went from his original goal of $600 to $10,000. Enough to freaking build the whole structure. And he did it because he wanted to. And he rallied non-believers who wanted to do the same to give because they wanted to. And yet, time and again, I have to hear about, number one, missionaries who go down and feed mouths, not just because they want to feed mouths, but because they are trying to save souls, right? To change minds, to spread their own worldview. And the second thing is they tell us that we don't have any morals or don't have any goodness or why bother or we have no compassion. We are incapable without God. It's bogus. I saw a debate. I'll get to the phones here in just a second. I was watching the film Collision. And it had to do with, his name all of a sudden just escapes me. Let me just Google it, make sure I get it right. Yeah, Douglas Wilson and Christopher Hitchens. They had written some articles and written a book together and done a tour together, right? And they stand on opposite sides of the faith question. And Christopher Hitchens was saying, why would I need the Old Testament of all things to have morals? And Douglas Wilson says, well, as an atheist, you must borrow from the Christian faith, right? To have a standard, you have to borrow it from us because we have it. You just seen the look on his face. What are you kidding? I seem to be face-palming more lately. I can't tell if it's just the long hours. I can't tell if it's just been a busy work schedule. I can't tell if it's just, I'm prepping I got 1, 2, 3 speeches coming up, and I'm thinking about these presentations, right? Like each one is critical. Each one I really have to deliver. And most people who hit the lecture circuit or do something like that will write one speech, and they'll milk it for a freaking season, sometimes for a year, because they're going to a different venue. Right? They go out and they do the same speech. Well, this stuff's going to be on YouTube, and they're different audiences, different times, different occasions. And I felt like the responsible thing to do, the best thing to do, is to write material and do fresh material for each of the venues. For Oklahoma State University next week, we're going to be in Canada at the Imagine No Religion 2 conference in May, and then Oklahoma Free Thought Convention 2 in June. So I'm doing all three of those at the same time. Putting them together. I want to make sure that everybody's going to be out there. They're spending their time. I want to make sure it doesn't suck. I've got to not suck. I haven't produced a video in weeks. I don't know what before I know it, I've worked myself up into a lather. And then I see somebody post something on Facebook like, thank Jesus, my chemotherapy went great. And I just pop. Do you need to vent about your facepalm moment? Because that's exactly what this show is about. Let's go to the phones. 847. Hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
This is Josh.
Thank you so much for waiting. And what do you have for us today?
I was actually looking around for some facepalm moments, and one of the places that I really wanted to find one is I was looking for some old radio shows from when you were still a Christian to see if I could find any facepalm moments.
You were going to go look for my old air checks? Oh, that's brilliant.
I looked for days, but I can't find them. I was hoping that you could connect me to some of your old Christian radio shows and see if we can find any facepalms in there.
Most of my, I'm going to date myself. In the 90s, the air checks, especially in the early 90s, were all done. Air checks, by the way, you would do a show, people would roll tape so that your program managers could hear your show and then critique you and then fire you and hire someone to do your job cheaper. And so we would always have air checks, which would essentially be the nutshell of our show, all the vocal parts of our show on one cassette tape. And after that, we did it all on mini disc. So all of my late 90s Christian radio stuff is on mini disc in a cardboard box, and I don't even have my mini disc player hooked up. I haven't turned it on in freaking years. So I think what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to go plug it in here, and I'm going to see if I can get some of those old pieces off of the mini discs. And if I do, I'll play them for you. I'll do them on a future. If we ever do the Christian music show, we'll go back in time. I think I'm going to take some old photographs of me with some Christian artists and show them at Free OK in June, and that will end up on YouTube. But I've got all these old photographs. Me with the Imperials, me with Michael W. Smith, me with Stephen Curtis Chapman. I mean, geez, every time an artist would come into town, we'd always get photographs, right? And go back to the green room and we'd go out and MC the shows. And so it does exist. The problem is that technology has changed so much in the last decade that I don't really have it handy. So I'll keep my eyes and ears open, okay?
All right. And I did have one of my own personal facepalm moments.
Yeah.
I was talking with an old girlfriend who was pretty much in a box, totally devoutly Christian, never got any exposure to anything else. And then she meets me, and, I was raised in a Unitarian Universalist church, and, I got exposure to Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, the whole package. And, basically I was like an encyclopedia to her. And I personally didn't like the idea that she never got exposure to anything else. So some conversations that I had with her, I really wanted to, kind of break down, why she so strictly believed what she did. And when she started explaining it, it was the typical things that I expected. And I was starting to point out things that could not possibly be true. One of the things I always try to strive for is believing things that are true and, get rid of things that aren't. And she basically stopped the conversation when she basically flat out told me, I don't care if what I believe is true or not. I'm going to believe it anyway.
She'd rather believe it and be wrong and live a happy life? Was that what she was saying?
She didn't even follow with have a happy life. She just did not care if any of it was true or not.
Well, I hear that a lot, actually.
And then that's when I did the facepalm, and I just stopped the conversation. If you don't care if what you believe is true or not, well, then there's not really any point in exposing someone to anything new or anything contradictory. It'll have absolutely zero impact whatsoever.
I hear it all the time. I don't care what evidence you show me, I am not going to renounce my God. They'll actually say that at the beginning of the conversation, which tells me that they started the journey for truth with the answer, which is an intellectually dishonest way to search for truth, right? If you have the answer at the beginning, you are wasting your time.
Right, which is a shame. I personally like the idea of a world full of people that strive for truth rather than strive for, whatever your pastor told you when you were 8 and stick with it.
Thank you so much for the call. I very much appreciate it.
All right. Love the show.
Thank you very much. James Randi called them the unsinkable rubber ducks, the people who are sheep who just want to be led. I think, yeah, that's accurate. There are some people, they just want to be spoon-fed the sugar. Make it taste good, and I'm happy. As far as vetting those ideas or opinions or claims, well, whatever. 337, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Oh, hey, this is Ron.
Thank you so much for calling. Got a facepalm for me?
Oh, yeah, this one's really bad. Of course, I had kind of a wide selection because there's all these campus ministries around my college, and they want to invite everybody. And I told them, hey, I'm actually an atheist, don't bother. And they said, oh, come anyway. So I do. And the worst one I've ever heard was, you say you talk about the Noah's Ark story a lot because it's completely ridiculous. Well, the big thing with me that I always kind of harp on is hell, because it's the most disgusting concept ever, how people can tell you that an omnibenevolent God would send people who absolutely don't deserve it to be tortured forever. But the point I was making was about the Holocaust, where people call the Holocaust Auschwitz, hell on earth, and they even kind of say it as though that's a little bit of an exaggeration, despite how horrible it was. The hell's even worse. But the thing is, they were virtually all Jews. So the idea, the premise, in at least fundamentalist Christianity, is that after all that horror, after the gas chamber, these people go to hell to be tortured even worse immediately after that. And what the facepalm is the guy's defense against that was me. Seriously, this was his defense. We don't really know. Maybe they accepted Jesus Christ as their personal Lord and Savior just before they died. Like all of them. Like they braved the entire Holocaust, not trying to pretend they were Christian or anything like that. And who knows? We don't know what was going through their mind. Maybe they converted at the last second. And I think I literally facepalmed right in front of them. I mean, isn't that ridiculous?
It's the way the religious try to justify the unjustifiable, and I wish they could hear the sound of their own voices. I appreciate the input and the facepalm.
Thanks for the time. I like the weekly format. I wasn't sure about it at first, but it's awesome.
Appreciate your call. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
I facepalmed when Pat Robertson blamed tornado victims this week for living in the wrong place. You guys see that on the 700 Club? Unbelievable. Then he said if enough people had prayed, God would have intervened. Of course, you could still the storms. Jesus could still the storms. I had a message from a user that said the recent outbreak of tornadoes in the southeast, which devastated so many lives, is truly heartbreaking. I can't imagine what that must be like. Yet with all the hardship, the news coming from the area is filled with people thanking God for their fortunes. I think it's fair to say that most of these people believe God is omniscient and that everything happens according to his divine plan. If it's true, and I don't believe it is, that God has a plan and controls everything, why would it be necessary for him to intervene? If God's plan is already laid out and is not changeable, why would anyone think prayer has any effect? If God created the world with all of its propensity for natural disasters, why would he put us in danger? Why create a world that indiscriminately kills millions of people and causes billions of dollars in property damage annually? Does it kill millions annually? And yet when tornadoes rip through a community, the faithful stagger out of their ruined houses, look around at the devastation, count their blessings along with their dead, and thank God. They say they survived because God was looking out for them. Well, if that's true, why did he just kick their asses with hundreds of tornadoes? In every tragedy, the first thing people do is thank God it wasn't worse. I can understand expressing relief, but not gratitude. Suppose Andrea Yates had not succeeded in killing all of her children. What if little 7-year-old Noah, the last of 5 children to be drowned in the bathtub by their own mother, had managed to escape and run to the neighbor's house for help? Would we have thanked God that Noah survived? Would his father have been grateful that only 4 of his 5 kids had been killed? Suppose that you're attacked by a knife-wielding thug. Would you thank him for only stabbing you 15 times and not 20? Should we have thanked God that only that can't be right. 1 billion is the number he has. People died in World War II. Is God to be thanked that only 3,000 people were killed on September 11th, 2001? I will never understand this way of thinking. Thanks for the letter. One more real fast. Cody said, hey, Seth, I just want to share a facepalm moment. This incident actually occurred about 1.5 years ago when I was still a Christian attending a Pentecostal church. I didn't facepalm myself until about a month ago, now being an atheist, when I realized how ridiculous the pastor's statement really was. The subject of slavery had been brought up in one of our Bible question and answer sessions that we had every week. Now, the pastor went on to state something to the effect of, I've been to Africa. I don't know one African that wouldn't want to be living in America now. It was God's plan for the Europeans to enslave the Africans, put them through difficult times, and to eventually give them a better life here in America. God puts us all through difficulties, but he always has a greater plan for us. This man actually justified the slavery of Africans, and I at the time actually thought it was a valid point. Looking back now, I want to facepalm every time I even think about it. Area code 831, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
This is Ray. Can you hear me?
I sure can, Ray. Thanks for your patience on hold. Let's facepalm together. What do you got?
Alrighty, sir. First, I want to say I just found your show about a month ago, and I love it. It is a great, great show.
Thank you for listeting and being out there, man. It means a tremendous...
I'm a former Jehovah's Witness, but my facepalm moment actually occurred about a month ago, not too long right after I found your show. I was talking to a lady at a mall. We were sitting there waiting for my wife to come out of the store, and I noticed she was reading her Bible, and I just looked over and I just asked her what version it was, and she goes, it's the original. And I said, the original? She goes, yeah, the King James Version.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and I looked over and I said, why is the King James the original? And she goes, well, don't you know James was the brother of Jesus?
No, she did not.
Yes, she did.
She did not.
And so I just paused after that. After that, I had nothing else to say.
What's that T-shirt? It says, "We have plenty of youth. What we need is a fountain of smart." That's exactly how I feel.
Oh, and I just want to let you know, I just got your shirt that I ordered about a week ago with the one about the snake, the talking snake down here.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to try wearing it out this weekend and see what kind of feedback I get.
You being a Jehovah's Witness, I've done a video on Mormonism. I will admit I don't know a lot of insider stuff about the Jehovah's Witnesses. I feel ill-prepared because some people have said, when are you going to do a video about Jehovah's Witnesses? And of course, my first thought is, when the hell am I going to find time to do a video? And my second thought is,
you're welcome to use me as a source of information. I was in it for 10 years. It's a very controlling religion. You basically, once you're baptized into the religion, you have to believe 100% what the governing body teaches. You have no ability to deviate at all, or they'll form a judicial committee, get you together, and basically make you either confess that you want to give up what you're questioning, or they'll disfellowship you.
It sounds a lot like the Mormons. The Mormons are hardcore. You're either in or you're out, and then they will separate you from your loved ones, your family. They'll just cut you off. Do Jehovah's Witnesses do the same?
Oh, yes. But even worse than the Mormons. You're told, only for non-family members, don't talk to them at all, period. And then for your children or your parents who are disfellowshipped, only talk to them as a business need if that's necessary. But Jehovah's Witnesses will even get into the bedroom and tell you, what kind of position you can have in sex, what type of sex you can have, that kind of thing. So it's a very, very controlling religion. It's one of the most frustrating. The 10 years I was in it, I was so frustrated. Within about 2 years after joining it, I tried to figure all kinds of ways to get out, but I was afraid of just jumping the ship because I had 3 kids while I was in it, and I didn't want to destroy the family unit. But eventually it just got where I couldn't do it. My wife was hearing demons talking and stuff like that, so I figured it was time to go.
I'm not sure if I can ask this without trotting on sensitive territory, but your family, are they with you as you exit this particular cult? Are they out with you?
My 3 kids, my son is the only one that's still in it. My 2 daughters have seen it for what it is, and they have no longer participated in the religion. My ex-wife, once I left the religion, she filed for divorce. In fact, in the divorce proceeding, she told the judge that I was a good father and a pretty good husband, but she was divorcing me for spiritual adultery, which the judge thought that was pretty humorous.
Because what? You had betrayed your church?
Yes, because once I resigned, we were already separated, but once I resigned from the religion, that was the ultimate. Because the one thing with Jehovah's Witnesses, as you know, they disfellowship if you do things wrong, like, commit fornication, or you maybe go out teaching something wrong and you refuse to repent. But the worst thing is what's called a disassociation. That means you voluntarily left, which is what I did, because I found them watching my house with binoculars to see. They were watching my house because they found out I acquired a book written by a former governing body member, and they were afraid that I was inviting witnesses over to examine the book.
Down the way, if we do a show on Jehovah's Witnesses, I would like to speak more with you and some others who've extricated themselves.
No problem. In fact, if you go to the Facebook, my name is Ray Bailey.
Ray Bailey.
Ray Bailey on the Facebook. You'll see it on there. I've just recently created that Facebook page. So.
I'm sure you've got some stories. Let's try to talk again, okay?
Okay, sure. It sounds like good. Keep up the good work, Seth.
Thank you. When I lived at another home, I had another home in the same city, but it was just, a few miles down the road, and our neighbors were Mormon. And I'll be honest, they were heart of gold people. Precious people. They were the best freaking neighbors I ever had. They were fun. They were funny. They would do whatever. If I was in a crisis, trust me, if I went to the hospital or if I needed anything, they were there. And it wasn't, I never got the vibe that they never said, please come to our church, please accept our faith. They never pushed it on us at all. They might have invited us to church once and we said, we politely declined no. But overall, they were just good people with a huge heart. And their kids were so well mannered, and everybody loved each other. We'd go over there and have dinner with them. And we'd laugh and swap stories, and it was family. Dude, it was family. It was so wonderful to be in the company of these people. But the entire time I'm thinking they're Mormon. Now, this was before I had really learned about the temple garments, otherwise called the magic underwear. I have no idea if they were wearing it. I would assume so, right? With the symbols on it and whatnot. But what really freaked me out is when the eldest son graduated from high school, they sent him off to his mission. And they didn't freaking see him. I think they got to visit him on Christmas. They flew up. He may have been in Salt Lake City. For 2 years. 2 years. He had to go to his mission, isolated from his family that he loved so much. And he was willing to do it, and they were willing to send him. I got the creeps. I mean, I thought, God, here they have this young scholar. I mean, he's 18, but he's 18, raised in the heavy indoctrination of religion, of the Mormon religion, right? And he is then isolated from all extra contact, all outside contact. They've got him in. I don't know what they did with the guy. Two years. And afterwards, then he was prepared to go out and, wow. And to them, this was normal. Made perfect sense. He's 18. It's time for him to go to the 2 years. We'll miss you. God, if I had an 18-year-old or if I had any child, somebody said part of our protocol is to completely isolate them from anyone and anything, including the womb that bore him, so that we can fill his young skull full of mush with whatever we decide is truth. Hell no. 804, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for waiting. Who's this?
Hi, this is Nicole.
Nicole, thanks for waiting. What's going on?
Well, I'm from Virginia, so recently in our news, obviously it's been a lot of reproductive rights stuff going on.
Yeah.
The local news affiliates' Facebook pages are getting a little heated with debate, whether people pro-life, pro-choice, whatever. So someone was on one of the news affiliates' Facebook pages posting Bible verses, thou shalt not murder, whatever, So I'm like, okay, I can post Bible verses too. So I posted some Leviticus about how God's going to release wild animals that will kill your children. And, God's okay with killing kids. He's also going to, according to Exodus, kill all the firstborn children of Egypt. And the same woman replied to me, but that's okay because God killed those babies. That was a good one. This one also was last week, if I can get another one.
Yeah.
I posted this link on your Facebook page, but it's about the lady that she has decided to, she's going to pray the crime away in New Orleans. So she drives around in her car and she sticks her hand out the window, driving through these streets in New Orleans that are horrible, horrible neighborhoods. And she doesn't get out of her car because Jesus never told her to get out of the car. In addition, and this is even on the news video that CBS has on their website, they cut to them starting one of their prayer services in somebody's house, and then they cut away and say, just as the prayer service was starting, somebody was shot 2 miles away and died.
It's like God, protected the people praying and offed the guy who didn't make it to church that night?
Yeah, those are my two for just this week.
Well, it's like, 39 people dead after this horrible outbreak of tornadoes. And I was doing it on a business trip in Hampton, which is, I think, up in your neck of the woods this last weekend. And I was, in the hotel, I'm watching the news, and it's, we all survived here. Praise Jesus. And that's actually, those were his words, praise Jesus. And of course, I just saw the death toll. What an arrogant statement. God reached down with his divine hand and protected me from high wind and debris and fallen power lines and all these other horrible things that may have happened. He protected me with his divine hand, and we're fine. But the implication is that God removed his hand of protection from some poor schmuck down the freaking street. I mean, it's horrible to think that way.
Definitely.
Well, I feel you. Thanks for calling the show very much, and thanks for listening.
Thanks. Hope to see you at Reason Rally.
I will be there with bells on. I'll see you in a few weeks.
Me too.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
By the way, support the Reason Rally, would you? They've got a Facebook page. Go and click the RSVP. If you're going, click attend. There was an article in the religious section of the Huffington Post. It was an op-ed piece. I don't remember the author's name right off the top of my head, but Hammond over at the Friendly Atheist wrote a great rebuttal. But it was, they were just minimizing it. Why would atheists want to ever get together? It just makes no sense. Are you really all that persecuted? It's like they were like looking into a fish tank, tapping on the glass. They really didn't. The author did not even understand, number one, what it's like to be a non-believer in America, right? And two, why non-believers wouldn't want to get together and celebrate science and reason and common sense. Duh, why wouldn't you want to get together and do that? And I think it's a very worthy event. I cannot wait. I'm so excited. I have never attended a rally like this in my life, ever. I got a plane ticket. I got a hotel room. I'm going to be there. I'm going to go out there and shoot some footage, and I'm going to be out in the crowd clapping and screaming and doing whatever I can to, I just want this thing to succeed so much. I want America to see a group of people who genuinely don't believe in a deity, but they do believe in each other. You know what I mean? We believe in bettering ourselves. We believe in having lives filled with joy and laughter. We believe in science. We believe in evidence. We're good people. I don't know. I encourage you, if there's any way to that you can go, there's many people. There are people flying in from over the ocean to be there. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be amazing. Nothing like it's ever been done. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. A couple of emails I had. Carnage2K4, who has a YouTube channel. He said, I debate on my YouTube channel. I'm assuming it's a he. Is it a he? Around the place. And while I have many facepalm moments, here are 4 good ones. 1, 2, 3. I see. Oh, I'm using 3 here. One says, faith is not founded on knowing, but rather not knowing, and that's what makes it valid. I hear this all the time, by the way. It doesn't make sense. The more it doesn't make sense, the more you know it's real. You got to have faith. And of course, you follow up with the obvious question, well, why would you have faith that this is true as opposed to faith that this other religion might be right? If there's an equal amount of evidence between, say, a Christian and a Muslim, why would you choose the Christian solution? Well, I just know in my heart, I just have to have faith. We're not meant to know everything. We're insects. God put us here on this earth. We're like little children. We're like little sheep, and he's our shepherd. He herds us all around and everything, and he makes the decisions. We just follow him. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. You just keep all that complicated information away from me. I have faith. Another one is Maggie is perturbed that I don't question my religion. I do question my religion. Then I read the Bible for answers. And another one from his page says, the burden of proof is on you. You need to prove the Bible is wrong by facts, not just you saying so. I had a conversation today with someone about the scriptures. Who wrote the book of Genesis? I said, right? A Bible believer. Who wrote the book of Genesis? You believe Genesis is true? Yeah. Do you believe in Adam and Eve? Yeah. Do you believe the story of Noah's Ark? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Who wrote the book of Genesis? Well, God did. No, but who was God's proxy on earth? Who put pen to paper? Who wrote it down? Well, they think it may have been Moses, but I just, God wrote it. God wrote it. I have faith. I have faith that it came from God. Make your head pop off. Here's one. It said, from Jeremiah, said, I just had to share one of my favorite facepalm moments from the past year. Way back in 99, I was a freshman in high school in an Assembly of God private school in Concord, North Carolina. A horrible experience, but that's a different story. Anyway, I had a good friend at the school named Kyle. We did everything together. We loved the same music, etc. Anyway, halfway through the year, I was transferred to a public high school and we lost contact. I was in 99. Back in August of 2011, thanks to Facebook, I was able to find him and I added him as a friend. I gave him my number and he called me a few days later. And after catching up on the last decade, he asked me, how can you be an atheist? And I said, well, pretty much the same way you don't believe in Zeus. He told me that he couldn't imagine living without God, that it would seem hopeless and pointless, and I pointed out the relief I had felt when I'd finally taken the final step of deconversion. And now that I feel like my short time on earth feels so much more important, now that I know there's no big rock candy mountain in the sky after I die, he expressed his incredulity and proceeded to tell me that he had heard God talking to him. He'd heard it, so he knew God existed. He then continued to tell me, and I'm not making this up, quote, God wrote me a message in the sky with my blood, unquote. I was speechless. I said, what? So after that, I just wanted to get off the phone. I steered the conversation away from religion. We began talking about our daily lives. And then he said, hey, I don't know if you knew this about me back in school, but I have schizophrenia. And I said, oh, that makes a lot more sense. Of course, he didn't believe he had schizophrenia, but that the auditory and visual hallucinations of demons battling angels in his bedroom were actually real, and that he believed God was allowing him to see with a sixth sense. Coincidentally, when he told me this, I had something to do, so I had to go. I haven't spoken with him since. 863, hi, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
I'm Caleb. I'm an atheist student in a middle school at Florida, and I recently got a paper from my school about evolution.
Hit me.
Evolutionists have failed in every endeavor to prove that evolution or evolutionary processes could have taken place. Neither could they produce a single useful amino acid or protein, nor could they prove, despite thousands of experiments, that mutations can have beneficial effects and cause evolution. In fact, they have proved that God's design is perfect and that mutations only have negative effects.
Was this part of a science project? Was it a speech class? What was it?
No, it was a paper I received from my school about evolution.
Is it a Christian school?
No, it's a public school.
Are you in the States?
I'm in Florida.
How is this possible?
I don't know. They're also doing things like preaching on Friday mornings. I talked to the principal about this, and she's saying that she's trying to do things, but I haven't talked to her in 2 days.
Well, honestly, I would like to see the Freedom from Religion Foundation or American Atheist or an organization that addresses this type of thing look into whether or not it's appropriate for a public school to be promoting a religion and sending those types of letters out. I would encourage you maybe to send in the information to one of those organizations, okay?
Well, it's not just our school, too. It's a little club that we have going on at our school, and it's a county-wide program. So it's just not our school that's getting this.
If that's a public school, what am I missing? There's got to be something I'm missing. I can't imagine a public school board or superintendent would approve of such a correspondence.
My parents are really angry about this, too. And the preaching in the morning, too, it's not student-led. It's adult-led by a church.
Can I ask what county you're in?
Highlands County.
I think I'll look into that. I'm going to make a note here. Appreciate your call very much. And I'm going to take a look at that, okay?
Okay.
Appreciate it. 505, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, this is Kalen. How you doing, Seth?
Doing good. We're face-palming today. Talk to me.
Well, I got a personal favorite of mine, and that's going all the way back to Genesis. Asking fundamentalist Christians, you believe that God's the only creator, right? Well, yeah. Okay. Who created sin? Oh, well, that was the devil. 2 lines in, and it's like this immediate facepalm.
These are the same people who say that they don't believe in the Big Bang or that something came from nothing, but they do believe that God is eternal and has no beginning.
And my other favorite is, just a couple quick stories with that one. In the Old Testament to New Testament switch, when people say the New Testament and Jesus brought about all these new changes, and that's where they get their good lessons from the Bible from, and I go, oh, wait, is this the same Jesus who is God? Oh, well, yeah. So Jesus is God, but he's correcting himself? Or even if those types that don't believe that they're necessarily one and the same, if Jesus had to come back and correct anything, then what kind of God is that to worship anyway?
Let's say it wasn't a correction. Let's say it had to do with it was a different time. I'm sure you've heard that one, right? It was a different time. It was a different culture. Fine. If you're God and you use the Holy Bible as the number one method for communicating your critical message with heaven and hell in the balance to billions of human beings, why would you allow the Old Testament to remain attached to your letter? And why would you allow fallible humans to canonize and vote which books make the cut? It makes no sense.
He's busy helping athletes.
It makes no sense. Tim Tebow. Jesus is out there helping him on the freaking football field while 30,000 people starved to death today. Yeah, I get it, man.
And the light from the stars at the beginning of creation were put in place from the billions of miles away here just for us to see, says the fundamentalist creationists.
Here's another beaut. They don't believe in evolution, right? But they are the same people who will say that, well, there weren't the millions of species of animals on Noah's Ark. There were only kinds of animals. And in the course of 4,000 years, now you see the millions of species that we have today, which is not just evolution. It's evolution on crack. It's like the Cambrian explosion on crack. It is the ultimate profession of a belief in evolution.
Exactly. And I'll throw this one out there, too, not to take up too much of your time, but even doing translations from cubits to feet, 500 feet long, 83 feet wide, and 50 feet tall, and you're telling me that that's the square footage needed to hold even... I mean, think about it. How many animals had to be on the ark? And he didn't specify that whales didn't have to, and saltwater and freshwater mixing. I mean, but of course, that defies the laws of physics, and God can do anything, and that's just because he's magical.
Makes you facepalm. Great examples. Thanks for the call very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you for your work.
Noah's Ark is like the gift that keeps on giving. Elizabeth sent me a letter. She said, I want to tell you about a facepalm moment I had a while back. While I was a sophomore in high school, I knew a girl who was a very evangelical Christian. She was anti-gay rights, pro-life, so much so that she actually started crying during a debate with me. She said the Archaeopteryx was proof that dinosaurs had feathers, thought Harry Potter was evil, and at one point swore to become a better Christian by no longer listening to bands that cursed. Well, I ran into her at the mall one day, still during sophomore year, and I found out she worked, of all places, at Hot Topic, which specializes in metal music, Harry Potter merchandise, and at times makes Castro Street look straight. It took all I had to wait until she was gone before I face-palmed. Robert says, hey, okay, 2 things always get me in the religious and the atheist communities. The first are those who call themselves pagan, as if it's a religion in and of itself. They don't know enough to narrow it down to one specific belief system, so they use the blanket term that sounds cool. The second one is the big one. Other people in the atheist community who refuse to be as rational or skeptical in any other area of their life. Too often in atheist forums, I get people pushing homeopathy, psychics. You got people pushing psychics on an atheist? Because I don't see any of that on my page. Psychics, ghosts, UFOs, complementary and alternative medicine, and any other such nonsense. It's definitely a facepalm moment. I haven't seen anything like that on my page. Now, I'll catch a little homeopathy, but I don't see psychics. We talked about ghosts. I get some people who say, I don't believe in God, but I am spiritual. That's a hard one for me. I get a lot of conspiracy theorists. I say a lot. At least there's a small group, but they're very, very vocal, right? Everything's an inside job. we faked the moon landing. They're so skeptical that they actually become. I mean, I think there's a point when you are. There's a skepticism is a wonderful and healthy way to live, but if you are so skeptical that you become a caricature of a skeptic, this is a problem. It's like if you're in the house and somebody pulls up in the driveway and you hear the car door slam and someone says, I heard the car door. And you go, are you sure it was a car door? Could have been anything. Could have been motion of the earth's crust. Could have been something else. Everybody in the house knows it's a car door, but you have to be skeptical about everything. There comes a point when it becomes a little bit laughable, doesn't it? Area code 704. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. What's your name?
Hi, my name's Ryan. I really dig your show, man. I discovered it this past January, and I've been a loyal fan ever since.
Thank you very much for listening.
I moved down here about 5 years ago. At the time, I was staying with my sister, and she's gotten really heavy into the church lately, and she never failed to miss an opportunity to ask me to come to church with her and come to a service with her or a choir rehearsal or whatever function they were having, until it got to a point where I just had to come out with it and say, look, I don't believe in God. And that's when she kind of lost it. She didn't start yelling or anything, but she has these moments where when she's proselytizing, which she sat me down and started doing, she proselytizing and she starts turning on the waterworks. She becomes so overwhelmed with the Holy Spirit, whatever. And the facepalm came when she told me flat out, well, it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. He's our God and not my God. He's our God because your mother believes in God, so you believe in God too, whether you believe in him or not.
Well, like your very DNA is now compelled to worship the same deity that she does?
Pretty much.
That is a facepalm moment. What else you got?
A friend of mine I went to school with, she's a brilliant young woman. She's a mathematician, in fact, and we often have philosophical conversations. And I don't know how the subject came up, but subject about nature, something about nature. And when I'm having a conversation with a religious person, I'll drop a nugget in there, just a nugget of atheism. All this was here before God got here. Come on. That's pretty much what I told her. And she caught it, and she came back with, well, if God created it, how was it here before he was here? And that's where the facepalm came in. And I wanted to debate her so badly, but I'm not a very good debater. I'm just so adamant about it, and I feel like she's trying to, again, I'm being proselytized to.
Whenever possible, I think you have to divorce yourself from emotion. I mean, we're all going to be passionate at least a little bit when we're speaking about it. But I think, the hotheads that I've met in my life, crap at debates. They're crap.
Yeah.
I mean, they feel it, but they go in there and they froth at the mouth and they get themselves worked up. And essentially, they give control over their own emotional foundation over to somebody else. They allow somebody else to push their buttons. And that's not debate. And it's not an effective way to present common sense and rationalism. Quite frankly, you have to go in dispassionately with compassion and just, lay it out. And if you're not comfortable with it, then cool. Sit back, sponge up some information until you are. I buy that. Hey, I appreciate it very much. Thanks for calling the show. Thanks for listening. It's good to have you on board, man. Take care of yourself.
Likewise.
Thank you very much. Area code 706. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hey, Seth. This is Lee.
Glad you're on the air, man. What's going on?
Back in high school, I had a algebra teacher, and she was talking about some philosopher. I don't know if you've ever heard of it before. I think he's a philosopher. He said once that it's better to believe in God because if you don't believe in him, you're going to hell. If you do believe in him, you'll go to heaven.
Yeah, it's called Pascal's wager, and it's a very popular argument.
I argued with her. I was like, well, if that's true, are you telling me that the God that can read into your soul, that you can pray to without speaking out loud, is it going to say, hey, you just believe this for no reason? Sure. Hey, you don't actually believe me. You just, this is insurance for you?
And what kind of a worldview is that? I mean, why adopt something as truth just because? I sure don't want to get this one wrong. So, I mean, that's not conviction. That's just a cop-out.
I might have believed it at one point, but I was a real Christian back then. So I was just like, I don't believe anybody can believe this, and not really. Doesn't make any sense to me.
That's a facepalm, man. Thanks so much for the call. I appreciate you being on hold. Take care of yourself.
Yeah, have a good one.
Thank you. 985, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
My name is Jamie.
Jeremy, thanks for calling. What do you got?
My dad's an alcoholic. And he just recently started to go to church to get God to help him with that. But he talks about how good, all this is and what his preacher says while he cracks open another can of beer. It's just kind of upsetting that I can't reach him and stuff like that. Another one's like conversations with my mother-in-law. You bring up little quotes out of the Bible, like the children getting mauled by the wild animals for making fun of the bald man and stuff like that. And she'll say, well, even the devil can quote the Bible when it so suits him, using the words of God against him, kind of thing. So,
well, if that's the devil, I'm screwed because I use the Bible to refute the Bible all the time. All you got to do is take more than a tertiary glance at the scriptures and you realize you got a problem. Thanks for your patience on hold. Have a great one. Appreciate you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I've got, let's see. It's a Skype call. SBUJ, the first four initials. Who's this?
Scott.
Scott, thanks for waiting. You've been on hold like 45 minutes. What's going on?
I actually am at a Jewish private school, and we were in my comparative religion class, and we're on Christianity. And we were on the book of Matthew. And we were talking about how in the book of Matthew, it explains the genealogy of Jesus. So I raised my hand. I'm like, wait, but isn't Jesus, the Son of God, also known as God himself? And my teacher just says, yeah, that might be true, but they still have genealogy all the way back till King David. I actually, in class, facepalmed. It wasn't even funny.
Plus, there are conflicting genealogies in the scriptures. I think I have that listed on my Refuting the Bible page at thethinkingatheist.com, but there are actually two different genealogies, right, going back from Joseph or what have you, and they don't even match. Like the number of people in the genealogy is totally bogus. The one that cooks my noodle is, all right, so Jesus and God are the same, right? So does that mean that God gave birth to himself, right? I mean, the Holy Spirit visits Mary, and then Mary's impregnated. I just can't go. It's a paradox, man. Anything else for me, or are you good?
I do have one more thing. I actually just want to give you some appreciation because I actually used your show and a lot of your website on 2 English papers I wrote, because the first English paper was on how religion shouldn't be used to explain scientific events. And the second one is looking at the 3 monotheistic religions and which one is the most violent of those 3.
Which one did you come up with as the most violent? Did you choose one of the 3?
It seems to be by looking, and this was actually looking at both history and the religious text itself. From what I can actually tell, it turned out to be Christianity, which was not as surprising to me as I would think.
What was the response of the paper?
Actually, I haven't gotten a grade back on it yet. I'm still waiting.
Man, I sure would like to hear the end of this particular story.
I could send you the paper if you want me to.
Yeah, email it to me, or if nothing else, wait till you get a grade back and feedback, because I'd like to hear what the response is. And maybe shoot it to my email address. Just send it to Seth@thethinkingatheist.com and let me know how that comes out. You can't leave me hanging on this one. I got to know what happens.
I wouldn't think of it, Seth. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. And thanks so much for the kind words about the site and everything. It means a whole lot. Very much.
Anytime.
Let's see. Christian sent me an email, said, when I heard your topic, I knew I wouldn't be able to call in live. I had to send an email. My 2 biggest facepalm moments came when I told my mom I'd become an atheist. She stared at me for a second, and then she said completely seriously, so what, are you gay too? Oh, man. That actually made me laugh despite the situation, he says. Later, in a different conversation, she admitted that she had no reason to ask that other than I was now an atheist, so in her opinion, something must be wrong with me. The other facepalm was in the same conversation. I told her I no longer had any reason to believe. She said, well, it sounds like you decided that you no longer wanted to be a Christian, so you just went out and convinced yourself. And then she asked me why. I was laughing. You know what I heard from my own family just recently is, you're reading the wrong books. You know what? You're reading the wrong books. I sent somebody a great speech. It wasn't even atheism related. It was about something else. From TED, Technology, Entertainment, Design. They've got some awesome speakers. And they've got their own YouTube channel, and you can go see all sorts of amazing content. And I sent my family member like a 20-minute presentation I thought was really good. And I thought it would be great because it's not about atheists, not about religion. It's about something else, right? It's just something that, and it happened to be a topic we agreed on. I get a response. And the response is, I combed that whole website and there wasn't one video about intelligent design. I can see you've isolated yourself. You're only watching videos that agree with you. Well, of course, first of all, it assumes that I only watch videos on Ted's channel, which is bogus, which is completely wrong. You see that assumption, right? I happened across a video from Ted and sent it. And we went from there to, well, apparently all of your videos that you like are on Ted, and there's nothing about intelligent design. And the second thing is, there may be a reason why a credible, quite often heavily scientific hub of information does not include teachings about six-day creation, a garden, an enchanted tree, two naked people, a forbidden fruit, and a talking snake. Yeah. Facepalm. I got time for a few more. 416. You're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Thanks for waiting. Who's this?
Jeff Rick here in Toronto, and greetings and good afternoon. How are you doing?
Thanks for calling the show. What's going on?
Well, some of my favorite facepalm moments come when I hear really good Christians telling me they agree because Jesus told them not to. I asked them if they ever read about the Last Supper. Think about it. I'm sure you've heard a few people say that.
Do you debate a lot in your circle? Are you out and about out there? Are you out there, swinging a stick?
Yeah, I was there in January, and on the Thinking Atheist, you can find a video of me debating a young Earth creationist. It's called Jeffrick versus a YEC. It's on the forums for the Thinking Atheist. And, that guy gave me a lot of facepalm moments, but I promised not to do it in front of the cameras.
So are you hearing a lot of the same stuff? You can't have morals without God. You have to believe in something.
And, of course, he brought up social Darwinism. I wanted to belt him for that.
Did you get a Hitler? Because normally if I'm debating in any capacity...
you can find that at the 10-minute mark, 40-minute mark with 10 minutes to go. I heard all of the crap, and I'm hearing this from a guy in his 40s. It was kind of crap to hear from somebody in their 20s.
This is the same thing I was talking about.
It's on the website. Go looking for the video. It's there.
I think about, we're not getting any new stuff these days. It's all the same. All of it's been rebuked and refuted and debunked, and yet it's not going away. What do you think that's about?
I think if you're stuck with Genesis, a book that was written 3,000 years ago, there is nothing new. And I'm asking where he's getting this crap from. He says from the website, Answers in Genesis. There hasn't been an answer in Genesis for 3,000 years.
If you go to Answers in Genesis, you will probably end up in the hospital from the facepalms. How is that website even used? Anytime someone uses it, it's right up there, same tier as the Creation Museum. You think, how is this popular? Why is it not mocked out of the room? And yet it's everywhere.
Oh, yeah. The people who contribute to Answers in Genesis were ended up as defense witnesses at Kitzmiller versus Dover Board of Education. They got debunked right there under oath in a court of law. And yet they still hang on to their fantasies, their fairy tales.
So are you a happy atheist? Are you a sad, pathetic, rudderless, meaningless, void human being, an empty shell walking around moping because your life is only temporary? I mean, what's your story?
My story is that I'm very well off, also very large. I don't know. I'm usually in a good mood. And if somebody feels like belting me, I just stand up straight and say, go ahead. Because I've been debating religious people who get to the point where they're going to hit me, and I just stand up.
You're like, I'll turn the other cheek, but then I'm going to whip your ass. Essentially, it's what you tell them.
Some of them are hilarious, but mostly they're frustrating as hell. I mean, why don't you people think? You claim God gave you the brain? Use it once in a while.
I'm facepalming with you. Thanks for the call. I appreciate you very much.
Okay, great talking with you.
Thank you very much. What a great voice. The rich, authoritative sound he has. So, it's funny, when I was in radio, you'd always find the people who talk to you and then those who talk at you. You know what I'm talking about, right? The pukers, you know? Q102 FM was they're always just kind of doing that puke thing. I was guilty my first few years in radio. I so much wanted to sound like a radio announcer. Even my home answering machine, I'm 19, 20 years old, and I'm like, thanks for calling. We're not here to take your call right now, but if you leave a message, we'll call you right back. Took me a while to finally discover that you are puking at your listeners. You're talking at them. You're not speaking to them. You're not communicating. So took me, 3 or 4 years, and I kind of grew up a little bit and developed a sort of a style of my own where you're just, you're be yourself. Most people who have a sort of a knack for this kind of thing usually suffer from an excess of personality anyway, right? Which benefits. You got to be a little bit of a ham to do this. You got to be a weird mix of humble and cocky, all right? A little bit of fear, a little bit of cockiness going at the same time. And be able to go and somehow, get through it. And but I remember those early days. 72 degrees, on our way to a high of 95 today. And coming up next, we're going to do this. Part of me hopes I don't even find any of those old air checks. I don't even want to hear them. Actually, you know what? From 95, 96 on, I'm good. But if I hear anything from 98 to 93, I'll probably just take a shovel and just beat myself over the head. 765, you're on the Thinking Atheist podcast. Who's this?
Hello, Seth. This is Joey.
Thanks for calling. What's up?
I'm 16 years old. I go to a high school in Anderson, Indiana, and I got one heck of a facepalm moment. All my friends, I've been bringing many godless books in, such as Christopher Hitchens, Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, and one of them is always on my case about atheism stuff. So I asked her a simple question that just left me in shock and awe. I asked her if Adam and Eve are white and evolution doesn't exist, where did black people come from? He said, well, my mother told me they painted them black. And she's just like, you know what? I believe in unicorns. I believe in all that. I don't care. God exists. You're wrong. That's pretty much what she said, and she just turned around.
You're just another little character in God's happy coloring book, boys and girls. Ignorance is brandished as a badge of honor. It's just sad. But they have faith, and that's all that matters. Appreciate you calling very much today. Thanks for the facepalm.
My pleasure.
Take care of yourself. Everybody, I appreciate you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for being a part of the Thinking Atheist community and podcast. We're taking next week off. I'll be back here after that. You can find a full podcast schedule at Blog Talk Radio or check the podcast page on my website at thethinkingatheist.com. Take care.
Follow The Thinking Atheist on Facebook and Twitter. Watch dozens of original videos on the Thinking Atheist YouTube channel. And visit our website for resources, links, contact information, the editor's blog, and more. thethinkingatheist.com.